Lots of Robinhood and GameStop developments yesterday, but we have to focus on the political angle here because, as always, there is a tale of corruption between people in power and then the people who make a lot of money on Wall Street. This one involves our Treasury Secretary, Janet Yellen. So there was a lot of discussion yesterday around Robinhood's decision in order to shut down trading of GameStop stock, AMC stock, and a few others that were mentioned on the Wall Street Bets subreddit. Now, the White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki was asked about this 2 days ago. She said Janet Yellen is monitoring the situation. Oh, well, it turns out, and let's throw this up there on the screen, that Janet Yellen was actually paid $800,000 from Citadel, which is a hedge fund which has received, or which has paid a lot of funds, millions of dollars, to Robinhood. It's actually one of Robinhood's main customers. And if there's one thing, a good thing that I think can try and come out of this is I hope people take away, when Robinhood is free for you to use, you are not the customer, you are the user, the product that they sell to Wall Street.
Yes.
The way that this works is that they take your trading data, they sell it to the hedge funds, people like Citadel. Citadel gets to front run your trades and sell it back to you for microtransactions, which add up to hundreds of millions of dollars, aka screwing you.
It's a model of exploitation, basically.
Essentially, it's stealing, but it's legal because they have more money than you and me, and they get to regulate the SEC in however they would want to. Now, this seems like a pretty obvious conflict of interest. In fact, so much of a conflict of interest that Kenneth Vogel over at the New York Times points out that Janet Yellen should, according to her ethics disclosure, not be allowed to even look at any matter concerning Citadel for a full year after the payment of that fee. But here's what the White House press secretary had to say when she was questioned on it.
You did mention, I believe, yesterday that the Treasury Secretary is monitoring the situation and she's kind of on top of it. There have been some kind of concerns about her previous engagements with Citadel and speaking fees that she has received from Citadel. Are there any plans to have her recuse herself from advising the president on GameStop and the whole Robinhood situation?
Well, just to be clear, what I said was that we have the Treasury Secretary is now confirmed. Obviously, we have a broad economic team. The SEC put out a statement yesterday that I referred to, but I don't think I have anything more for you on it, other than to say, separate from the GameStop issue, the Secretary of Treasury is one of the world-renowned experts on markets, on the economy. It shouldn't be a surprise to anyone she was paid to give her perspective and advice before she came into office.
Yeah, shouldn't be surprised that a hedge fund pays $800,000 to the former Federal Reserve Chairman in order to advise a hedge fund who all they do is leech value off of you and me in the marketplace. That's their entire function. That's what I want people to understand here. And yeah, so look. Does Janet Yellen have a stake here in Robinhood? No, probably not. But it's just it's just another example of people in power who have links to the people at the top and dramatically undermines public confidence in our regulators and in our system, and specifically because of this. Did she really need the $800,000 from that speech? I don't think so. I just don't.
There's also this concept of being a public servant.
Yes.
Which these people seem to think means that they're entitled to cash in to the tune of millions and millions of dollars off of their quote unquote service. Mm-hmm. There's so much to say about this. First of all, that response just makes me want to scream. Oh, she's an expert and she deserves it, so don't worry about it. It also harkens back to when Psaki was first asked about the whole GameStop issue. Her response was, first of all, I'll remind you we have the first female Treasury Secretary.
That's right.
And by the way, I have no comment. How is that relevant?
Yeah.
And that's exactly, and I'm sorry, okay, congratulations, that's great representation, yay for everybody. That's exactly what she's doing here too. That's the subtext is wow, she's a powerful, expert woman. And so we can't question this money that is very strong. Hillary Clinton, Goldman Sachs speeches, 2015, 2016 vibes of this is what everybody does.
Yes.
And how dare you even come in and question it? Not, this is a mess and let's look into it and she needs to recuse herself according to the ethics agreement that she herself signed. No, it's a sneering, how dare you even ask about this situation? And by the way, this isn't just about undermining trust, although that is an important piece of it. That when you see these kinds of shady arrangements, people trading on their public service, yes, that undermines public trust in government. But it also really does impact how people ultimately operate and perform their regulatory duties. Because one thing has been made totally clear throughout this entire GameStop Robinhood situation, which is that these people who are in the club, who are all the same class, who are all buddies and friends and know each other, they are looking out for one another 100%. That's where their allegiance lies, and part of where those connections come from is paid speeches like these ones Janet Yellen.
I was just looking up. I have now the list of former Treasury secretaries in front of me. Janet Yellen paid millions by Wall Street in order for speaking fees. Steven Mnuchin was literally a Wall Street Goldman Sachs banker. Jack Lew, actually one of the few career civil servants. Credit to Barack Obama for ever appointing him to there. Tim Geithner is a finance person who served on that gig. Before him was Hank Paulson, who was the chairman of Goldman Sachs. Before that was Jon Snow, who also had ties to the finance industry. Shall I go on? Previous, Paul Neal, same thing. Larry Summers, gift to the finance. Robert Rubin, literally another Goldman Sachs person. So I think we're all beginning to understand the point, which is that since 1995, almost, I think, 8 Treasury secretaries I just named, 7 out of the 8 of them have had deep ties to the financial industry. Does that not concern you? And then how are people not supposed to look at what happened? And they see all this new regulatory scrutiny, SEC. When's the last time, by the way, that the SEC investigated why a stock went up? Has anybody thought about that? What's going on here? Aren't you supposed to go and check out Bernie Madoff and the things where people get stolen from and are losing their money? No, they're concerned because the stock went up at the expense of the billionaires. And that's just so telling that now the Treasury Secretary is reviewing this. Now the SEC wants to investigate. Now there's all kinds of stuff that they have to look into. And I just think that it tells you everything you need to know. Once again, I actually think Janet Yellen is pretty smart. I think she's hyper competent and all of that. But I shouldn't even have a shadow of my doubt of, why were you paid $800,000 by a firm at the center of this story that's set to profit off of telling Robinhood to stop GME and other stocks from trading on their platform? I don't know if that happened, but we should find out. And we should have full public confidence in that investigation.
Indeed. And it's also, there's this deeper level issue of when it's your side's corruption.
Yes.
They're well-intentioned. So you give them the benefit of the doubt of I'm sure this $800,000 payment isn't going to impact her view on the issue. You assume that they're not going to be subject to the same normal human behavioral pressures that everybody, this isn't about Janet Yellen being a bad person or being particularly weak or any of that. Look, people are subject to pressures based on who they associate with, who they owe, their house, their ability to make their mortgage. Those things are very real. And if you don't think that that impacts you and the people who are ideologically aligned with you, you're just blind. And so that's the other thing that undermines trust is in this very clear example, there's just a wave of the hand and also a contemptful, how dare you even ask. Whereas, when it was Donald Trump in office, and I'm not equating the two, but you were all over and you're deeply concerned about the corruption in his administration, as you should have been.
Yes.
But you have to, if you're going to restore the soul of America, this stuff needs to be all really clean and clear and straightforward.
100%. Look, it was a disgrace when Gary Cohn and Steve Mnuchin ran U.S. economic policy under Trump. And I'm not going to stop saying it's not a disgrace whenever somebody who does that under Biden. And look, once again, I hope she does a good job. I actually think she's probably much more competent and will be better than those two individuals.
Yes.
That doesn't mean that we're not allowed to ask questions about this. And just give a better response than she deserves that money. Be like, we have full confidence in the capability of our Treasury Secretary to make an impartial decision and to go after people who are being screwed here. How is that hard? It ain't. I've been in the briefing room. It's not so difficult to say what I just said, but they have to lean into the yes, queen feminism because they also know that every single person in that room won't call them out on it. That's the worst part.
Just imagine the callousness of that, well, she deserves it attitude when you have so many millions of Americans who are starving and struggling and lost their jobs and getting screwed, and some of whom are on Reddit trying to make up a little bit of ground right now, and you're basically just part of the cabal that's standing in their way.
That's more than they would make in a lifetime.
Yes.
Right. We'll be back. We'll have more Rising for you right after this.